Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Happy Friday to you. Today I got some buy sells coming at you. I have 3 options of each. Couple players I am going to try and rid myself of while their value is highest, and another few that I think may have some good stuff coming towards the end of the season and that I'm going to try to get my hands on as soon as I can. Most leagues are only going to have a few weeks left where you can actually get a deal done. So it is critical that we take advantage of these buys and sells when they are available. We have had some success over the last couple of weeks with some big wins. I am hoping that I can keep that momentum going for you guys with today's episode. If you have not done it yet, please consider crushing the like button on the video. That helps me out a ton. And then if you would subscribe to the channel as well, both of those things are greatly appreciated. We are this close to getting our first 500 subscribers. It's been our goal for a bit now. You can help me out by hitting that button and joining us. Now let's hop into buy sell. I'm going to kick it off with my buys, players I am looking to acquire, and the first one is George Kittle. Now, as a general rule of thumb, it is usually not best to buy a player after they've had their best game of the season. But I think in this case, the added expense that it's going to cost you is still worth the price of admission. Kittle currently sits as the tight end 26 after 6 weeks. He's had only 1 game inside of the top 20 thus far, and he's failed to surpass 5 fantasy points in all but the week 6 game that we just saw against the Falcons. Whoever drafted Kittle had to pick up an option right at the beginning of the season to fill in for him, to try to keep their team afloat, and it is possible that that pickup worked out and they are no longer in need of his services. The other possibility is that they're just sick and tired of waiting for an explosion to come, and that weak last game is not enough to keep them invested. If Kittle is being valued at anything other than a top 5 at the position, you need to go and make a move immediately. One of the biggest reasons that we saw a steep decline in Kittle's production was the offensive line situation for the 49ers. They've been shifting people in and out all season long. The final straw here was losing their stud left tackle. Once Trent Williams went down, Kittle was forced to support the unit up front. We saw decreases for him in both routes run and the opportunities as well, but that could change as early as this week with Williams potentially coming back. Even in his absence, Kittle has retained his volume. He's averaging nearly 5 catches per game. As of late, those have just been ones that have low quality due to that poor pass protection. As the line gets healthier, Kittle is going to be freed up to terrorize the middle of the field as he usually does. He'll finish as a top 10 guy, I think, without question, and we know that he has upside that far exceeds that. If I can move an overachieving tight end like Tyler Higbee, who I had as a sell here last week, or even David Njoku, who has surprised, I am swapping them in a heartbeat. If the current manager does not need another tight end, maybe a player like Tyler Lockett, or even Alan Lazard, who are wide receivers 18 and 17 respectively, might be able to do the trick. The next player I am trying to get my hands on is Drake London. Now, I've been biding my time for the perfect opportunity to buy low on the talent with London, and it looks like this is the ideal time to strike. After he started the year off really hot, he had 3 games in a row with 50 yards or more. He scored twice. Drake finally came back down to earth. Over the last 3, he's had 92 scoreless yards in that time. If you are a buyer, it is a beautiful thing. The reasons that I want London on my roster are many. He is playing in an offense that has thus far been able to stay in most games, but I do not think that that is going to be the case all season. Yes, I understand that the Falcons are feisty. They want to pound the rock and keep the pass attempts as low as possible with Marcus Mariota at the helm. The only problem with that is that Atlanta does not have the talent to make that the game plan each and every week. The Falcons are going to be behind a lot. They are going to have to throw it to catch up, and when they do, it is going to be none other than Drake London who will feast. There are no other options in the passing game right now, besides Kyle Pitts, of course, who seems to be in a sophomore slump of his own, even though I'm still buying him. London owns a 33% target share this season. He ran around on 100% of dropbacks in week number 6, and he's only getting better as the rookie wideout shakes off the rust and learns how to be a pro for the first time in his life. He's 6'4", nearly 220 pounds, so he has the size that begs for red zone opportunities, and he's got the physicality to outmuscle smaller corners as well as outjump the other ones. As the first receiver off of the board, the Falcons clearly viewed him as the most elite prospect at the position. They're going to make sure that he gets fed down the stretch. The best part of all of this is his price. As the current wide receiver 29, it is likely that you can throw a solid flex piece at the current owner to get a deal done. Someone like Adam Thielen, maybe Jacoby Myers, or Brandon Ayuk, all of who have seen more recent success, should be able to net you London. I am taking Drake over all of these guys easy. He will have his quiet weeks, but I also think that he has boom potential and he will finish as a top 24 option at the position. And if things break right and he can sneak in a couple tutties, he might even break the top 20. The last player that I'm trying to acquire is none other than DJ Moore. He's about the least attractive buy that I have ever had on my list, but that does not make him a poor target. We could start with the bad, but I do want to finish this video before tomorrow, so I'm going to sum it up for you. Moore has not finished inside the top 25 at all this entire season, and he has caught just 20 of 44 targets thus far. So it hasn't been great, but that is exactly why now is the ideal spot to make a plunge and invest. For all of the negatives, and there are plenty, there is a silver lining in this, and that is that it cannot possibly get any worse for him. Between what he has had in Baker Mayfield and PJ Walker, a return from, of all people, Sam Darnold is going to help him out. DJ is a guy who, coming into this season, was the only player in the history of the NFL to have 1,250 scrimmage yards or more to start their career. So there is no questioning his talent, and guys of his elite mold never come this cheap. There is also the fact that the Panthers just traded away Robbie Anderson. You can say what you want about him, but at the end of the day, his nearly 16% target share and 30% air yard share are both leaving Carolina. Somebody here has to pick up the slack, and I am betting that the majority of that work does not go to the likes of Shi Smith, Laviska Shenault, and Terrace Marshall. That is just not going to happen. The Panthers have no choice but to feed DJ almost every time they go to the air, and that is going to be way more often than they'd like because they are going to be playing from behind a ton as the season wears on. DJ Moore is sitting as wide receiver 53 right now. His current owner wants absolutely nothing to do with him. He's going to cost you pennies on the dollar, but there is a world where he fights back to respectability and finishes as a wide receiver 2. At the very worst, he is going to get inside the top 36 as a flex-worthy player, and he's not even going to cost you that. It is worth your time to check in on his availability and his price, and if the owner is at least somewhat reasonable, you can throw a decent flex piece at him and make out like a bandit. I am not overpaying for DJ, but if I can throw him someone like Tyler Boyd, who's wide receiver 34, Romeo Doubs at wide receiver 40, or Chase Claypool at wide receiver 42, the upside that Moore provides is more than worth it. And if he can't bounce back, then you're out of flex. Now, if he hits, you have strengthened your roster significantly for the stretch run. It is a low risk and a big reward, and I am all about that. Make sure you go check out some of my previous buy sells. Some of the guys I am still buying from those videos include Deontay Johnson, Kyle Pitts, Joe Mixon, and Travis Etienne. This is a great time to remind you, Relentless Press is dropping content Monday to Saturday. I'm dropping it at 12 p.m. Pacific, so you know when it's available. I have everything that you need, so make sure you subscribe, otherwise you might miss something. Now let's hop into my sells. I'm gonna start with Juju SmithSchuster. I was never a believer in Juju when the season started, so now that he's finally opened up a window a bit to sell him off, it is an easy call. Prior to week 6, SmithSchuster had not finished inside of the top 30 even once. He peaked with an 89-yard performance on 8 targets with 5 catches against Indy. That was back in week 3. He has not passed the eye test for me, and his play thus far has failed to move the needle in the production department. His only score came in last week's game against Buffalo when he ran a 7-yard route and then 3 players decided not to tackle him. So it was more of a fluke play than Juju going out and actually getting it done on his own. That kind of thing is not sustainable. And it's not like the opportunity hasn't been there either. Juju boasts an 18.6% target share that is second on the team to only Travis Kelce. He's had 8 targets in 4 out of his 6 games, so the Chiefs are clearly trying to get him going, and he is not doing a good job of making a case for them to continue to do so. Kansas City is going to spread the ball to the playmakers that are producing. There is no clear or defined pecking order. That means that at any given time, Andy Reid could give up scheming things for Juju only to watch him come up short. We have Mecole Hardman there, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and Sky Moore. They're all constant threats to touches for him. Moore in particular should become more involved as he shakes off that rookie rust. The Chiefs invested a 2nd-round pick in him for a reason. I know it is just rumors right now, but if OBJ happened to end up in the Chiefs, that would just be one more mouth to feed. There are way too many reasons why Juju is not going to succeed for me to play that wait-and-see game if I am an owner. Since he has finally clawed his way back into flex territory as the wide receiver 35, it's time to sell him off high for someone who offers better upside but has been underperforming so far. Deontay Johnson at wide receiver 38 and Terry McLaurin at wide receiver 33 are both in his range, and I would even take my previous dude, DJ Moore, straight up in a 1-for-1 swap if I could. Make a move now before the door slams shut. My next sell is Daryl Henderson. Now, I had Henderson as a sell back in week 3, and since then, he's posted finishes of running back 66, 44, and 49 before he finally got the backfield at least semi-close to himself, and he registered an RB16 finish. Considering what is going on with Cam Akers, at least the small bit that we are aware of, this seems like a really strange time to sell, right? Akers is likely to be traded, and that leaves Henderson as the no doubt running back 1 moving forward. Not so fast, my friends. The Rams seem determined to keep Henderson from a true workhorse role. They gave 8 touches to veteran Malcolm Brown last week with Akers MIA. There's also talk of the Rams making a move for a running back, and if LA were to acquire a guy like CMC, as small as that chance might be, the perceived value that is there for Henderson right now goes straight out the window. Also sapping my hope for a second half resurgence from him is the Rams' offensive line, which happens to be one of the worst in the entire league. They are struggling to open up holes with any regularity, and Henderson is not exactly the guy that is going to create things on his own more often than not. To make matters even worse, the Rams are going to return from their bye to face 2 out of the top run defenses in the NFL in San Francisco and Tampa Bay. It is likely that even if Henderson is the guy for both of those games, that he's bottled up, does not produce, and he sees his value depreciate significantly. To be clear, I am not giving Henderson away or selling him at his current ranking of running back 37 because he has more value than that. But there might be an owner out there in your league who views Henderson as a high-end running back 2 after taking over the RB1 role in Los Angeles. If that happens to be the case, sell him off at that value and do not think twice. Some buy low targets that you might be able to acquire for him are guys like Najee Harris, who's at running back 23, and Travis Etienne at running back 28. That may be far-fetched, and if that's the case, a couple other guys I'd take for him are Devin Singletary and Tony Pollard in order to offload Henderson. My last sell might not make me a popular dude, but I gotta do it because I see the opportunity. It is Devonta Smith. I'm gonna start with this, okay? Moving away from Smith, it takes guts. It is not for the faint of heart, and to be completely honest, it might end up hurting you by the end of the year. But that being said, I also think that there is opportunity here to capitalize on some inflated value that's gonna benefit your team for the long haul. So Smith has been a stud so far this season. He has just 2 finishes outside of the top 30 all year, and he currently sits as the wide receiver 16. There is not a lot to dislike about what we have seen from him thus far. The reason that I am proposing to selling him is that I do not think what he has done to this point is sustainable. First and foremost, the Eagles want their offense to operate through the ground game. It was their formula for success last year when they went on a tear and stole a playoff spot, and it will be their recipe once again this year when all is said and done. As a run-first team, the pie is going to get smaller for Smith. And the pie that we are talking about already has a lot of mouths fighting for it to begin with. And the first option in the passing game is always going to be A.J. Brown. Now, if that meant Smith was the clear-cut number 2, I would probably be holding, but that is just not the case. Dallas Goedert is having a career year in his own right. He's had 6 targets or more in 3 straight games, and he out-targeted Smith in that time. He has an excellent connection with Jalen Hurts, which they showcase almost every week. Even with all of this, I would probably still be holding on to Smith, but one final piece gives me pause and makes me think that moving on from him is the best call. In half of his games this year, Smith has 5 targets or less. Now, one of those games was last week. He was able to salvage his day with a tutty, but in the other 2, he combined for 17 yards on 3 catches. That is going to absolutely kill you down the stretch when it matters most, and it does not scream high-end wide receiver 2 to me. So let's recap. A more run-focused team, potentially the number 3 option in the passing game, and a wild variance from week to week. With these warning signs, if we are looking at what is most likely to happen, it is a regression in the form of a reduced production from Devonta. He is still going to have his boom weeks, but are we going to be able to tell when they are coming? I highly doubt it. Probably what is going to happen is that we're going to have to plug him into our lineups every single week and hope that he doesn't fall flat on his face, and that is a hard pass for me. My final point is this. There are better options out there that we can acquire in exchange for Smith's services. Where he currently stands, I would rather have Mike Evans at wide receiver 19, Michael Pittman at wide receiver 18, and even Gabe Davis at wide receiver 15 over him without question. I understand that it is not an easy move to make, but if you do, I think that you will be happy that you did. Some players from previous videos I am still selling include Zeke Elliott, Allen Lazard, and Tyler Higbee. And that is everything I got for today's buy sell. I hope you enjoyed the content. I hope you learned something and that you can take this information and go make a trade or two to better your rosters for that playoff push. Please drop any questions that you may have down below. I get back to every single one that I receive, whether that is dynasty, trades, start sits, whatever. Throw them at me. I want to be able to help you out. Make sure you crush the like button for me. That helps out a ton. And then subscribe to the channel because that makes all the difference in the world. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abrium Opats, and I will see you next time.